What is up guys? In this video I tried to make a speed garage track. I don't know if I made it, but this is what I created. So let's jump straight into FL Studio and I'll show you how I made the track. Let's go. Okay, so let's just jump straight into the drums. So these are all the blue ones over here. So I have like a standard kick drum, like this. And I think it's just one of my own samples. And processing wise, I haven't added anything because yeah, it just sounded nice. Sometimes I will add a little bit of EQing, maybe add a little bit of excitement, distortion, saturation to the drums, or even also a transient shaper to push the attacks a little bit. But for this kick drum, it just sounded fine. So I didn't want to just do it for the sake of it. Then next, I added a drum loop from Splice. And I know like a lot of you guys might think it's a little bit of cheating to use just drum loops, but to me, it just adds vibes. And I like to layer my like one-shot programmed drums with actual loops because it just gives it like a little bit more character, in my opinion. So this is the drum loop that I found on Splice. And it's just like, it just fits the vibe totally. And I don't want to complicate things. If it sounds good and it fits the track, I'll just use it. The only thing that I did is that I added a transient master. So basically just pulling down the sustain of the drum loop. So if I just pull it off, the drum sounds like this. And then with. So you might hear that those like sustained, I think it's like some shakers, and the open hi-hat just gets a little bit shorter. And it just makes, in my opinion, the drums sound a little bit more tight. So that's it for this top loop. Then I added like my own claps. And these are actually 2 claps, I believe. So there is a clap on the second beat, just like the standard clap. Let me just find it for you. It's like this one. And these like ghost notes that are right here, they are doing like this kind of shuffle to the drum loop. And as you can see, they are shifted a little bit off the grid. And that's what gives it like that house vibe, that garage vibe. So you can see here, like this is actually not on the grid. And then I'm also experimenting with like having different velocity levels and maybe also different panning levels. One cool tip to do this in FL Studio is just to highlight everything and press Alt and R for randomize. Then I turn off this pattern up here, and then I just basically mess around with the level and the velocity. So it's just doing some random values for those 2 knobs. And I think it's really nifty just if you want to have like a quick result. So that's what I did. And then I just layered the drum loops, the kick and the drum loop here. Just adds a little bit extra vibe to it. Then I added these like closed hi-hats. And they had like this more fast vibe to it. Also like quantized, added some swing. So you can see here like not exactly on the grid. Also like a lot of random velocity values and also panning. Because I like to have more alive drums so they don't have like the same velocity level, the same panning settings. It just brings them a little bit more to life, in my opinion. So they move a little bit in the stereo field, but also like dynamically. So I think it's really great if you want to add some extra character to your drums. I forgot to mention that the BPM of this track is 136 BPM, so it's rather fast, but it's just what gives it that vibe. I think for these hats, I didn't add anything, just reduced the volume. So that's it. Then the last drum component is a ride loop. Just hitting on like all of the downbeats. I think, yeah, I didn't add anything, so that's just what it is. Then all of my drums, except the kick drum, are being routed to a drum bus. And on the drum bus, I use Soothe And if you don't know what this plugin is, it's just a plugin to remove resonant peak areas of your input signal. So it's just focusing on different areas of the frequency spectrum and then analyzing to listen if there are any like resonant frequencies that can be just produced. So if we just play it. So this area up here, there are like some resonant frequencies that I just want to tame a little bit. So that's basically what Soothe does. I can press this delta button, then you can hear like what it's removing. So those frequencies are pretty annoying and I just want to get rid of them. So Soothe is great for that. Then I've added the passive EQ just to boost with a high shelf, boost the high end, and then boost this 3K hertz area with a little bit of boost. I like this plugin because it sounds a little bit more musical. It has like a warm feeling to it, a warm tone to it. Then I use some bus compression just to glue together the drums. So just a little bit of gain reduction and a little bit of threshold. That's actually not anything crazy. It's just to make the drum sound as one. And then last, this plugin is pretty awesome. It's the J37 stereo from Waves. It's a like tape machine emulating plugin. And what I like about this is that it has like the saturation knob down here where you can really crush the input signal. And I think it sounds really nice in these drums to crush them a little bit so they sound a little bit more distorted. So this plugin basically opens up the track a little bit more with the drums. So pretty cool. So yeah, that's it for the drums. Then I have like this bass line up here. It's playing like this MIDI pattern here. Oh, and if you want to get your hands on this project, you can get it on my membership site via the link in the description down below. So, and I will also include like all MIDI files, stems, and presets and all that stuff. So yeah, the bassline is actually a preset that I made in a previous video. So I don't want to go into depth with this, like how you can make it, but you can go and watch this video up here, which explains how you can create this preset, this bass sound, basically. Okay, processing wise, I added a little bit of exciter at like I split the band up in neutron free at around 200, 300 hertz. So everything above is being added a little bit of tape saturation to it with a little bit of mix and just to boost like the highs a little bit. And then actually also rolling it a little bit off because I don't want like this area up here because I have some busy drums playing here. So that's like the EQ settings. And then I have like a side chaining for like the bass line. Yes, let's move on to all of like the yellow components here are all my like melodic components. So I have like this chord step thing here, which is pretty nice. Like this one. Open the MIDI file here. So I think like this is following the bass line, like the root note, and just playing like a pretty cool like basic rhythm, but it just adds a little bit of cool character. And this is like a preset, I think it's like a serum preset from Splice that I just tweaked a little bit. And then I added some extra processing from Guitar Rig 6. And this is like a replica delay, and also like the side delay is also delay, but then reverse, and it gives like this. If you turn it off. Like I'm a sucker for creating like soundscapes and playing around in the stereo field and making it a little bit more ambient. And this like way of reversing delays really plays nicely into that. Yeah, like that's Guitar Rig 6. Then I'm using like just a standard EQ from FL Studio just to move low end because I don't want it to mess up with my bass. And also like some of the highs because I have like, again, these busy drums playing. And this is where the energy lies in this sound. So just keeping it there. And then some side chaining from Shaperbox, basically. So let's move on to the next component. Oh yeah, it's the M1 piano steps. So these like stabs are following the chords of this track, and I believe this is in A minor. You shouldn't like hang me up on what like is the right chord progression, but I think this is like the A minor chord. And let me just pull up like a reference guide, because then I can understand what's happening. So I'm not really good at music theory, so I use a lot of like resources for that. So let me see. So yeah, it's the, so C, it's the, yeah, 1 chord, 3 chord, and then I have the, like the diminished, the B here, playing right here. I hope you can see it on the screen. And then like the last chord is the 7th chord, like the G major. And I love this like diminished 2nd chord here, playing like the B, because it just gives like a little bit more like spice to the chords. And then these are playing like these like kind of chop rhythms, with also, if we zoom in, having like not the notes exactly on the grid. So I'm using like swing quantization, so just pulling the notes a little bit off the grid. And this is what gives it like that bounce. Pretty nice. So as you might hear, like this chord here really adds character and spice to the track. So the source of the sound is from the iconic Korg M1, and it's the piano 8, and it's just this like classic digital sounding piano, but it just fit the vibe of this track. So I added some processing. Firstly, through the EQ, removing low end and also like a little bit of the high end using like low pass, and then boosting a little bit around here. And then I'm using decapitator just to add some distortion to the piano sound, just to beef it up a little bit. So adding a lot of drive. You can use whatever distortion plugin that you have. I just use this one because it sounds great. And then adding some H delay at 1/8 dotted tempo. I'm using like this like filters built in the delay, because then I can control the sound of the delay. So I like to cut off with a low pass, so I don't have like the highs of the delay, because they sound a little bit more washed out in my opinion. And then a little bit of feedback. And this like last one, the fruity limiter, is actually for side chaining. So in the mixer, I'm using kick drum, the kick drum channel. I'm routing this into the different channels you can see down here, where I want to add like sidechain. So you can right click on this triangle down here and add sidechain to this track. I have made another video explaining this, and you can just watch it up here. It's gonna explain you how you can set up like sidechaining in FL Studio with this approach. So yeah, it's doing like sidechaining. And so in the context, we have this. Nice, I really like it. And the next one is the organ line. It's this one. And this is also just following the same, like the root note and the chords of the piano and the root note of the bass line. So this is like the rhythm that it's playing. And also, it's also being like quantized in like just this more like shuffly way with a little bit more swing. So the notes are not playing exactly on the grid. And that's the key, like for getting this like vibe of this track, is not have everything like just on the grid. The sound is coming from Serum. It's just another like splice preset. I'm a preset guy, so I don't spend too much time making my own sounds, because it will just ruin my workflow of creating ideas. Sometimes I will find a preset and then I will tweak it. And for processing, I actually only added the H delay again for some delays. And this is like, yeah, with a ping pong delay. So using the sides, so it's traveling from left to right. And then also a fruity limiter for some side chaining with the kick drum. And this is like together with everything else. Big vibes. I really like this sound. It's like so cool. Okay, so moving on, I have added some like the last bits here, which are basically some kind of like filler instruments, just to add a little bit of extra texture. So I have this like called Weird Synth. This one, it's coming from the Jupiter 8 from Arturia, and I just browsed some presets. They have like so many different presets, and you can use like tags, genres, styles, and I just picked the UK garage one here. Then I found it, and it was like it could do something to the track, and I didn't want to mess anything with like the preset settings, so I just used it as is. And I don't even believe that I added something. No, I didn't even add anything to like the mixer track. So that's also like just browsing some presets, like playing them on top of the beat, just rolling, and you might encounter something that works. So this is like within like the track. So it's just adding like an extra like rhythmic kind of thing. I think I will just reduce the volume a little bit because I think it was a little bit too high. Okay, then I have like this washed synth here. Like this one was pretty cool. Like I also just went to Jupiter 8 and just browsed some presets, and then I found this sound and I was like, wow, this is pretty crazy, to be honest. And then I added some extra processing with the RC20 retro crawler, and this is actually doing a lot. It's using like some wobble, a little bit of distortion, this digital, which is like a bit reduction thing, and then a lot of reverb. And then I'm using the EQ to remove low end and also a bit of the high end. And then I'm basically reducing the width a little bit because I don't want it to be like too spread out. But listen to the sound without like any plugins. So this is the... But it just needed like that extra texture. And then like the shaper box is doing side chaining and some panning here. So panning it like left to right. So this is the sound. And like that really heavy side chaining, I know it's like a really like obvious effect, but it just fitted in with the vibe of the track. So just listen to it. And again, these notes are also following the chord progression. So everything is like in kind of harmonic sync. Like the sounds that I'm looking for like this kind of like speed garage vibe is like more digital, harsh sounds. So not so like beautiful and mellow. And this one was just something that was just perfect for that. So let's just move on to the last melodic component that I have. And this is just this basic high string. This one. I bounced this to audio because I just wanted to be like one constant sound. And you can achieve this by just having like a string sound playing at a really high octave. So this is playing at a really high A. And then I just bounced this to audio. Then I added a little bit of processing. So I used Shaperbox. I actually used this crush component to add like a little bit of grid, some distortion, some bit reduction. And then I think also some panning from left to right to add some stereo interest. Because this is like a high string in the really high frequency area, I don't want to have anything unwanted low end. And then lastly, like a fruity limiter for sidechaining. And this is just a really great way to add some extra tension to your sounds. So if you just listen to everything. Let me just take out this high string. Like it's so effective to create some tension with this trick. So I'm using this like in a lot of house tracks because it just works basically. Okay, so I don't want this video to be too long, so let me just jump into the next part, which are the vocals. And this was actually a pretty easy task because I just went to Splice and typed in that I wanted some vocals, some house vocals in A minor. And then I found like this sample. Yeah, pretty simple, but sometimes it can just be simple. And then I just made like, I just chopped out a bit here at the end. I think it's this one here, actually. Yeah, something like that, just to make a little bit of variation, because it can be a little bit like too static. And then processing wise, Actually not much, just EQing to remove low end and a little bit of high end to get like a more, so it's more like tucked in the back. And then shaper box just for side chaining basically. So yeah, that's like the vocals, nothing crazy. You can see that I love to use few elements and really get the most out of each element. So right now it sounds really full and pretty cool to be honest, in my opinion. Then we have like these like earth colors down here, I will call them, which is just basically effects. So I have here like a crash, and I have like some saps here, just to add a little bit in between the sections. I have like this fill down here. Yes. And then I have like some other stuff over here. I will just cover them just in a minute. I have this crowd ambience that's also like a splice loop, but it sounds like this. And what's cool about this is that it just, I just put this in the background of the track, but it just adds like to the vibe that, okay, we're in like a crowded area where people are maybe going to a club or something. And it just adds up to the character of this track that this is maybe like a clubbing track, basically. For processing, yeah, just EQ to remove low end, and then some sidechain from Volume Shape 3. This is the old plugin. And this is just to make it duck coordinate to the kick drum. So it's not like fighting with the kick drum too much. Then I have some other stuff here. These are for some build-up stuff. So like snare uplifter, like a transition effect here. Long sweep. Yes. And a riser here. And then last, like this small filler thing. Yeah. So yeah, I don't like spend too much time on this stuff. It's just to add like that extra sprinkle on top of the track. So yeah, like I think the last thing that I want to like highlight is just that I forgot to mention that I also have like an instrument bus for all my melodic components. So they are routed into the instrument bus. And this is basically also using Soothe to remove any of these harsh frequencies. And then I'm using Neutron 3 to remove low end, and then adding a little bit of, yeah, some tape excitement to the mid-range and the high end of the sounds, just to make them push through the mix a little bit. So that's basically it for this track. I really hope like it nailed the speed garage vibe. I was a little bit unsure if it like could take off the boxes, but I think it sounds cool, and I really hope you enjoyed this video and got something out of this like tutorial breakdown. So let's just have a listen to the end result. Let's go. Really cool. Really cool. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, it would mean so much to me if you would smash that like button or even subscribe to the channel. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you want to get your hands on these project files, you can get them on my membership site. The link is in the description down below. I've also launched a Discord server for producers. It's a place where we can share our track ideas, get feedback, provide feedback, and it's generally just a cool place to hang out and talk about music and stuff. And I really want you to get involved. If you want to, you can join the Discord via the link in the description down below. If you want to support this channel even further, you can also go and check out some of my sample packs and preset packs on my web shop. The link is also in the description down below. So I hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Peace.